So New York obviously has a very rich black history, no question about it. We want to delve into a little bit of that history right here. The Langston Hughes Library for a celebration of the Black History Month. And I can't think of three people who are probably more expertise than the three of you. So we're going to get into it. So maybe the first question I have, why Langston Hughes? Why is this beautiful library named for Langston Hughes?
During the period of time when they were designing and conceiving the library,
right.
Langston Hughes had just passed a little before that, and they wanted to name it after somebody who had made a significant contribution to America, Black literature, and American literature. Langston Hughes was the perfect person, and they just felt that what he did lived up to what we were going to be about. And if you look at the legacy of this library, it has lived up to the name of Langston Hughes. This is actually our second building.
Right.
We were opened in 1969 for the public during those anti-poverty days of the early 60s, mid-60s. Community corporations were formed and committees were formed of that community corporation. And one of the things that the committees realized when they were looking around the community, we realized that none of the libraries in Queens had any collections or programs that reflected the Black experience. And that what we need our own library. We need a library that we can have where our children can learn their history and culture.
Okay.
Fortunately, Queens Library was receptive to the idea, and there was federal funding available.
But it was a federal grant that was written by the local community that brought it into existence. And there was conflict between the central library system and this unique place, because at that time I don't think many people who were in library systems saw libraries as this community center. That was contrary to what we had seen before, not even to mention the fact that it was dedicated to Black history, which of course in those days in the early 60s was not something that was commonly done.
Right.
So while they worked that out over the years, but it was a difficult process.
Well, show us around a little bit here, Andrew.
Okay. The thing you'll notice about the space is the design. Artwork everywhere reflecting the Black experience.
Right.
The building itself was designed by Black architects from Gary McNeil and Associates and David Brody Bond and Associates. And everybody who walks in here said that the ambiance of this library is so different. Langston Hughes was always designed to be non-traditional.
Everything about Langston Hughes from the beginning, in a way, was revolutionary. Right. And everything that happened here was revolutionary.
So we're back here at the Langston Hughes Library with its executive director, Dr. Morris. How long have you been here in
I'm just
Langston?
approaching 2 years.
And what's your experience like so far?
It's been great. I mean, the community is very welcoming, and I think the best part of being in an institution like this is just being around the arts all day. I mean, what better place to work? And I get sheer joy and pleasure to bring that to this community.
Have there been any changes to the library in terms of anything new that you've brought into it over the past 2 years?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, obviously when you come into something, you don't want to just reinvent the wheel, but I just wanted to bring my spin to a few things.
Sure.
And there were just some areas where I just wanted to kind of, make things a little bit more modern.
And it still maintains itself not just as a library, but as a cultural center.
Yes,
too, for
absolutely.
the community. Right? So we know we have plays here, and you do all kinds of music.
There's been a lot of music. We've had art exhibits. There's obviously a lot of things for young people, because we do have a large group of young, toddlers and up until the tweens that come into the library. So we want to be able to actually offer something for everybody. So
there is as everywhere in Queens, as Queens is noted for, there's change that's happening. There are new cultures.
Absolutely.
So you are experiencing that as well, and you'll never lose the feel of an African American library in many respects. But you're also adapting and opening up to those new cultures as well, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's important to do that because you want to maintain what Langston Hughes stands for and what it's always stood for. However, you have to also embrace what's new and that change. And there's a way of bridging that gap.
I'm intrigued about the history of Queens. I'm really intrigued about the history of the Black community in Queens. How far back can we go in Queens here in terms of the?
You can go all the way back to the Remonstrance over in Flushing, where there was the first religious freedom movement there.
So the African population was here prior to the Revolutionary War.
Right.
And so let me ask maybe more sensitive question. Enslavement was also here in Queens County, wasn't it? There were people who were titled as slaves and indentured servants, weren't there?
But Flushing was also one of the sites of the Underground Railroad.
Now, why was East Elmhurst a predominantly African American community? What's your thoughts there?
It wasn't. My family brought me here in 1948. came from New Orleans to escape the horrors of segregation that they had to live there. They thought that they were going to find a better life here.
And when Louis Armstrong moved here, he commented that his block was a multicultural block, right?
Exactly
Yeah.
right. So what you saw was a change from that to all African American, pretty much predominantly African American,
By the
and then the
60s.
change that you speak of now. Too, this has been a place that has attracted folks who I think are almost all alike in their wishes and desires. They wanted to live in the city, they wanted the access to the city, they wanted to own their own property, they wanted to have a home with a yard, and to be able to raise their children in a decent way. And so that theme has existed through all of these migrations.
Well, Dr. Morris, Dr. Jackson, Assemblyman Dr. Aubrey, thank you very much. And as we celebrate Black History Month this February, one thing I can say about Langston Hughes Library, about East Elmhurst as a community, every day is a celebration of African American and Black history and their contributions to this great nation in our world.